Om Radio Network, the world's conscious broadcasting network. Live on iTunes and archived on iHeartRadio. The voice of consciousness. And now, join Shay Parker's Best of the Best, offering celebrity guests, lively discussions, hot topics, free psychic readings, and expert guest hosts. Simply the best in spiritual and metaphysical talk radio. Listen live on your phone or device using our universal mobile player. No app needed. Shay Parker's Best of the Best. Find out more at bestamericanpsychics.com.
Hello, everybody. It's the Rock Girl. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on the Rock Girl Unleashed, Empowering Your Wild Within. And today is Tuesday, I think August 2nd. So we have a really interesting show tonight, just me, myself, and I, and all of you, of course. And we're going to be talking about a topic that is so timely to a lot of you out there. And myself. It's called Great Expectations. Great Expectations. No, it is not the book. It is not the movie. It's about what to expect when you are expecting. And no, we're not talking about pregnancy. We are talking about expectations about yourself and about others, even your situations, your life's purpose. So we're going to get into all of that. And I do the show. This is Shay Parker's Best American Psychics. I'm so proud to be a part of it. And I do the first show of every Tuesday. So I'm on once a month. And you can find me. My website is therockwell.com. And that's about my services, psychic services, Reiki services, things like that. And then I also have another website called sacredstoneschool.com, and that is my school, and I basically have programs in Reiki, in rocks, of course, my Master Stone program, and psychic development. We also do past lives there. We do ancient civilizations. Big thing that we're doing now is planetary gridding, how to use stones, psychic energy, and past life energy, along with Reiki energy, to work with the planetary energy and tapping into the earth chakras. And so that's what the school's about, and that's the Rock Girl site. So a lot of people get confused, and if you are confused, just check out both therockgirl.com and sacredstoneschool.com. And of course, this is the Rock Girl Unleashed. Let's talk a little bit about that. I'm the Rock Girl. I got the name from when I was younger, and I played with rocks, and I guess no one bothered to remember my name, but they called me that Rock Girl. And so I still play with rocks, and I'm still the Rock Girl. And I've had a lot of radio shows in the past. I love doing radio shows. And I love doing radio shows because you can reach a lot of people, not only when you're live, but also they listen to archives. And I base the topics of my shows on questions that I get from clients, and also just everyday passerby on Facebook and the internet and email. And so if somebody emails me or Facebooks me with a question, I used to sit down and answer them all the time, and then it used to take so much time, and then I used to feel really, really, really bad about not being able to get back to them. And so I thought, maybe I should just do a radio show, collect the questions, and then address them. And so I've been doing radio for years, but I have to tell you that I'm like super, super honored to be on Best American Psychic, Shay Parker's show. I've been on here for years, and I'm super, super honored to be on OM Radio as well. OMTimes is awesome. Love the place. And it is a very reputable website run by very reputable people. And when I heard that Shay Parker was moving her show Best of Best over to OM Radio, I think it's IOM Radio to be exact, I was super stoked to be a part of it. So I know that there's a lot of listeners out there, and I thank you for tuning in to my little humble show. So back to the name of the show, The Rock Girl Unleashed. I've had Rock Talk with the Rock Girl, which was years ago on CBS Radio, and that was nice. And then CBS kind of went off into radio land somewhere else and is no longer running. And Rock Talk with the Rock Girl was, talking about rocks and then also how rocks can connect to people. But we also did psychic readings with rocks and things like that. And that was fun, and people called in with their questions. And then I went on to do the Sacred Stone show, and that was on another radio station. And I basically just talked about the metaphysical properties of rocks, and a lot of people who were more into it really liked that. But when the opportunity came up to do something on IOM Radio with OMTimes, I thought, let me think of something that has a broader reach. Let me think of something to connect to all of the people out there. And so I thought about it, and I came up with the Rock Girl Unleashed, Empowering the Wild Within. And we talk about rocks on the show. We'll talk about psychic stuff. We'll talk about Reiki, about energy work, about all that kind of metaphysical stuff as it applies to the topic. I wanted to do a topic-related show based on the questions that people out there were asking. And I know that OMTimes reaches a huge group and that there's a lot of people interested in a lot of things. And so I wanted to talk about what affects all of us, which is the soul. Each and every one of us has a soul, and whether we want to connect to it through Reiki, through rocks, through psychic development, through EFT, or any of the thousands and thousands of other amazing modalities of energy work, we all have a soul. And anyone who is into the metaphysics, and of course following OMTimes, I'm sure connects with that on a deeper level. And hopefully this show will offer you some laughter, fun, and tears, education, and tools to help access and connect to your soul and others. And so the Rock Girl Unleashed is really about unleashing your limitations, unleashing your inhibitions, unleashing anything that binds, B-I-N-D-S, binds your soul, and unleashing it. And empowering the wild within is really giving yourself the permission, along with the support, education, and skills and experience, empowering your wild within. And your wild within is that untamable part of your soul. It's the untamable part of your soul. And I love to talk about that because a lot of people think, oh, empowering the wild within, that untamable part. I'm going to leap off tall buildings without a parachute. I am going to conquer my fear of heights. I am, going to drive cross country. I'm going to go climb Mount Everest. And indeed, all of that does qualify for empowering the wild within. But what I do in my school, the Rock Girl Sacred Stone School, and through the psychic readings, is I love to help the person find the extraordinary in the ordinary. That's extraordinary is extraordinary. And just little tiny changes throughout your life, throughout your day, throughout your moments can be incredibly empowering, and that can unleash the wild within. And so by facing your fears, by taking accountability for your actions, we're going to talk about that after the break, but just a little change in your life can help empower the wild within, can help nourish your soul. Even self-talk. How many of us have limiting self-talk? I'm laughing because I'm the pot calling the kettle black. I did a radio show a few weeks ago on the station, and it was about change and what it takes to make changes and how scary changes can be because you're going into the unknown. And what I tried to convey to people is you don't have to make huge changes. But just making little changes. Like I used to get up at 11 o'clock in the morning when I lived in New York because I had to sleep through all of that crazy rush hour. And when I moved to Asheville, North Carolina, I made a change as to what time I got up. And I got up at 7 o'clock because the sunrises were so breathtakingly beautiful, they still are, that I didn't want to miss a minute of that. And so I just made a simple change in my life as to what time I got up every day, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. And you know what, folks? I cannot stress how much that one change has not only brought so much positive energy and life into my into my everyday existence, but it is also was a catalyst to other changes. I changed my office around, and I only did it I brought in a rug, a carpet actually, and no, I think it's a rug. It's a tribal rug, and it was one little rug, but it changed the energy of the entire room, and then it inspired me to change the rest of the room. And again, one little change leads to another, and that was very empowering. And so what I'm trying to get at here is that every time I do a show, I like to respond to what people are asking out there, and people were talking about changes. I also did a show 3 months ago, about the power of no, being able to say no to something when you really want to say no. I do know, no pun intended, that it is now 8:15 and we are soon going to a commercial break. So we're going to listen to the music come up. And when the music comes up, we're going to commercial break. And then hopefully I will gracefully launch back into the show somewhere around 8:17. So I will keep talking until I hear the music, and then I will say bye-bye. However, talk about empowering. I always miss these breaks, and I'm really trying hard to stay on cue. And whenever I do, I feel quite empowered. Now, if that isn't enough to make my day, I don't know what is. And so when we're coming back, we're going to talk about expectations. So while we're on break, if you could just think about your expectations. What do you expect from yourself? What do you expect from others? Are those expectations met? How do you feel when those are met? And how do you feel when they're not? And more importantly, what do you do when those are not met? How do we handle that? All right, here's the music, folks. Be right back.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Have you wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hi, this is Shay Parker, founder of bestamericanpsychics.com. If you are a professional psychic or medium and are looking for a group of like-minded individuals that are truly supportive of one another, Best American Psychics is the place for you. Or if you're not a psychic but you're in need of guidance regarding love, money, career, and more, please visit our directory. Each psychic is double tested and approved for accuracy, professionalism, ethics, and more. bestamericanpsychics.com, a new league of professional psychics.
So, I'm a dog, and I just got adopted by this new human guy, and I'm starting to wonder how he got along without me. I mean, okay, something as simple as walking around the block. He's got this leash thing, and he puts me on one end and him on the other, and I'm just taking him around. I think he's afraid of getting lost. Without that leash and me guiding him along, I don't think he'd find his way back home. But it's kind of cute.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Hello, everybody. It's the Rock Girl, and we are back for more chit-chat. energy chat. And here I am trying to work Facebook and post this show because a lot of people have been messaging me about how to get on here. And so for those of you on Facebook who are listening but want to go on to the site, it is http://OMTimes.com. IOM shows best of the best. And I'm going to post the link on my Facebook page, and all you have to do is click. All right, there we go. Yay. All right, we're rocking and rolling. We're also talking about expectations. We've heard about great expectations. We even talk about when people are expecting a child, expectations. And so, even I always have to laugh because a lot of times these quotes, great expectations or having expectations of yourself, when we were in the womb, people were saying, oh, are you expecting to our mothers? And our mothers would say, oh, yes, I'm expecting. And way back when I was born, I don't think they had the test for boy or girl. And so when we popped out, they really didn't know what we were going to be. So the parents were saying, yes, we're expecting, meaning expecting a child, but they didn't really know whether it was a boy or a girl. But secretly, I am sure that many of our parents out there, and even parents themselves of children today, were hoping and had expectations of A, are we having a boy or girl? B, what are they going to be when they grow up? And so from the minute that we hit the ground running or crying or crawling, in this case, we had expectations that were basically imposed upon us. And of course, they were wrapped in love, like our parents loved us, and they had expectations for us, and they wanted the best for us. And then sometimes we grew up and we were exactly what they expected. Sometimes we surpassed what they expected. And other times we may have failed them. And so expectations is a heavy-duty word. Sometimes it can be like a wet blanket carrying around that extra weight. I mean, blankets can be warm, right? You're freezing cold and you snuggle in this wonderful warm blanket, but if it ever gets wet, it's heavy, and sometimes it casts a chill. And so sometimes expectations, although they may be in the best intention, usually they are, right, can end up being heavy and even harmful at times and limiting. And it's not because your parents don't love you and want you to grow up the best you can be, but what if you were just not wired that way? What if you just, it's not in your DNA? Now, when I was a little girl, I was outside a lot. I grew up on a horse farm. I played in the woods. I did all that stuff, and I was very active. And so I went to high school. I was, middle school, high school, and then I went on to college. And even in high school, you had the expectations. What are you getting on your SAT? You were expected to get straight A's. I played field hockey and lacrosse. I was expected to make varsity. And you know what? By the grace of God, I was straight A's. By the grace of God, I made varsity for both teams as a freshman. But I had those expectations because my mother was a gym teacher at one point in time, and they were also self-imposed on me. And so I didn't have the feeling of not meeting my own expectations, but what I realized in high school was I had expectations that were mirrored back to me by others, by teachers, by peers, by the neighborhood I grew up in, and I took those and I met them. But what I realized was that I didn't have a choice of what I should expect from myself. I did not have a choice of what I could expect from myself. Now, how many of you out there can relate to that? I have a lot of people on Facebook here raising their hands, and so it began. It began from the moment we were in utero, all right? Not even hit the ground running. I said hit the ground running before, but again, our parents had great expectations for us. Our teachers had great expectations for us, and they all did it out of love. And one of the biggest forms of punishment that my parents could do is sit me down and say, we're disappointed in you. And you know, I got the belt maybe once when I was younger, and then I realized I don't want the belt. And my dad didn't even hit me hard. He just threatened a little bit. But I was never hit. I was grounded. I had, fun things taken away from me. But the biggest punishment for me was, Allison, we're so disappointed in you. And, that was enough to stop me in my tracks. And at a very young age, I learned that, okay, my parents are disappointed in me. Did I do something wrong, like take something of my sister's, not tell the truth about what time I was coming home from curfew? Did I cheat on a test? I mean, those things I understand are wrong. But, I remember, if anybody knows me out there, you'll laugh at this. I remember being 12 or 13, and I was doing something. I don't know. I was in 6th grade, and I started getting psychic kind of hits when I was early on, but I didn't have enough courage to say it until 6th grade, and then I would just blurt out these psychic things, which, by the way, is wrong. And I would blurt out these psychic messages, and they were obviously predictions. And I remember telling somebody in my class, oh, you're going to have a sister. She'll be born in May, and her name is Maeve. And he looked at me like I was crazy, and then I said, oh, yeah, your dad is not the dad, though. It's your Uncle Stephen who's the dad. And so he was like, I don't know what you're talking about, but by the time I got home from school, my mother was out on the front porch with her arms crossed and her foot tapping, and she said, Allison, I'm so disappointed in you. And I said, why? And I really didn't think I did anything wrong. And she's like, you're telling stories again. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, you told so-and-so that his mother was having a baby, and that's a lie, and he's upset, and she's upset. And psychically, I knew it to be true. And I said to my mother, well, it's going to happen. Wait till May. And, I had to go see the principal, and he said he was disappointed in me. And I was grounded. I had to spend the weekend in my room, and I remember thinking, this is not fair, because they're expecting me to be one way, and I'm really another way. And so at a very young age, it actually was October 1976, okay, I learned, we're in 2016, so that was, 40 years ago maybe? And I said, probably 40 years ago, somewhere like that, I thought, this is not fair to have certain expectations when I'm really something else. And so it set me forth upon kind of a lifelong introspection about expectations. And my parents and the peers expected me to be one way, but I remember sitting in my room all weekend, writing in my journal, who am I? Who am I? And why do they think I'm telling stories when I know I'm telling the truth? And by the way, in May 1977, this kid in my class, his mother did have a baby. Her name was Maeve, and Uncle Stephen was her father. Okay? How's that for a psychic hit? But it wasn't right of me to just blurt it out. That was wrong. However, in my world, that was my reality. And those were my expectations. And I know a lot of the people in the metaphysics out there, and I'm getting a lot of feedback on Facebook right now, can agree with that we have one set of expectations. And I know how many psychics are, quote unquote, in the closet out there. How many people are afraid to tell their family they do psychic readings. I happen to have a large collection, over about 300 of my own personal crystal skulls, and I teach classes with them, and they're in my school, and I just think freely that they're fine, and then, I have students come and purchase them, and then they have to go home and hide them from their husbands, or put them away when company comes over, and so, they feel that they have to be in the closet because of what other people expect with them. And I'll tell you, we're going to go to break in just a couple of minutes, but these are the kind of expectations that are kind of thrust upon us by society, by our families, by our peers, by our friends. And I know a lot of them, and you guys know a lot of them, are done with love. But what happens when the glass slipper does not fit? What happens when that expectation is not met? The parent, the friend, the spouse is disappointed and they're upset, and then we're upset and it doesn't work. And I guarantee you cannot go through life without disappointing someone, without not meeting their expectations. And these are just, these are just some everyday, real-life examples of how we constantly fall short of what is expected of us by other people. And we're going to talk about how that affects us as individual people ourselves. How does this affect? I know how I let my family down, okay? I know how I let my spouse down, but how did I leave myself down as well, and what are the effects on the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual planes? All right, we are going to go to break in just a few minutes, and then we'll come back and talk about what to do with ourselves and our expectations, not to give up hope, and do not be disappointed in yourself, because if you can't support yourself, then who can? All right. Now, until this music comes up, let's talk about the music. I like this music. I like the music that comes in, and I like how it goes out. It's like a wave. I don't know if that's Shay's music or that's OMTimes music, but I like that music. It's very mystical. It's very sensuous. It makes me feel good. So I'm waiting for it to come up and play. But I think that my clock is off. It says 8:30, and they said the commercial is coming. The commercial is coming. The commercial is coming. So until then, the homework on break is to kind of review with yourself pick 2 expectations of what you've let other people down, and pick 2 expectations of how you feel you've let yourself down. Here's the music. We'll be right back.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Spiritual, metaphysical, green living, psychic, alternative healing, life coaching. Do any of these or similar terms apply to your business or cause? If so, you are in a niche market with a very specific audience. Conscious Gate PR is the world's leading conscious public relations agency. With a global reach of over 4 million and growing, we offer comprehensive media campaigns to our targeted market. Learn more at ConsciousGatesPR.com. Conscious marketing for conscious minds.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Hailing Light, on OMTimes Radio every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Hailing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
Hi, this is Vicki Snyder, the Everyday Mystic Angel. What's that, you ask? Well, it's an angel with a down-to-earth edge. And you can catch me live every 4th Tuesday from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on The Best of the Best. Learn more about me and my services at www.vickysnyder.com. That's VICKISNYDER.
Every 2 minutes, an American is sexually assaulted. The majority of victims know their attacker. It could be your friend, your neighbor, or someone you met at a party. If you said no, it's rape, and it's a crime. This is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Call the National Sexual Assault Hotline today at 1-800-656-HOPE or visit RAIN.org. That's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Hey everybody, we are back. with Rock Girl Unleashed, Empowering Your Wild Within. And I want to thank everybody on Facebook who is communicating. And your feedback is really very, very welcome. And thank you for your thoughts and for your sharing. And it seems like a lot of people, relate to this topic. And so what we're going to do is I asked you during the break to think about two instances where you fell short of someone else's expectations and how that made you feel and how that made them feel and what you guys did to work that out, if it was worked out. Or, I should say and. Also, when you fell short of your own expectations, did it feel the same? Did it feel different? What did you guys do about it? And so, a lot of us, let me reframe that. I turned 50 in June. I used to think I was young, and I'm kind of not anymore. But a lot of the people that I connect with are anywhere between the age of 30 and up. And we have all grown up with a certain level of awareness of expectations. And that is the group that usually comes to my school. I keep saying because I have so much to say. I don't know how to what to come through first. So I do apologize for that. However, let's backtrack. All right. So when you disappoint someone, how do you feel? Are you angry at yourself? Are you frustrated? Do you feel badly because they feel badly? Which one is it? It's not good or bad or either. It's just this is an exercise in bringing awareness to yourself so you can change your behavior. And in the show that I did on change a couple of weeks ago, I got so much great feedback via Facebook and also my emails, and I want to thank you for that because it really helps me. It helps validate that I'm on the right track and that I am going in the right direction with these radio shows, and the fact that you respond to it and can process it makes me feel really good because I've been able to share something with you that has helped you as well. And so a lot of people wrote in, yeah, I understand that I need to change, but I just can't seem to do that. And the first thing you need to do to change, the only thing you can change is yourself. You can't change anybody else. So if you're doing something that is not working, instead of being defensive or in denial, if you say, yeah, I'm doing this and this isn't working, you're owning it. And then you acknowledge your behavior and then you can change it. So that is how it relates to change. But in the expectations, awareness is key as well. Did I just disappoint someone because they had unrealistic expectations of me? Because perhaps they expected the same thing out of themselves as they do others? Or did I disappoint someone because of my integrity level, because I did not do the human thing? And so by determining which disappointment you actually are guilty of, it will help you determine the response, the reaction, and moving towards positive change. If it's falling short of someone's expectations because you did something hurtful or less than you know, something that you're not proud of, like lying or taking something that was not yours, then you have to look at yourself and you have to say, yes, I own the reason for this disappointment. I fell short of the expectations because I was wrong. And then you can change that. And then you won't see it. If you actually change something, you won't punish yourself about it because you'll learn from it. Now let's go talk about the other person that you just disappointed. You lied to them, for instance, and you already made peace with yourself. I lied. I lied to somebody once, and it really hurt them. And I said to myself, Allison, you're not really a liar. Why did you lie? And so that person was very disappointed in me. It broke their trust. And it was somebody that I really admired and I cared about. It was one of my friends. And so I said, I'm not really a liar, so why did I lie? And after some introspection, I realized that I lied because I didn't want to disappoint them. I told a lie because I didn't want to disappoint them. But by being caught in a lie, I disappointed them worse. So I decided, all right, I'm not going to lie anymore, and I'm going to be painfully honest with them about why, if they ask me something next time, and I'll tell them the truth. And I mean painfully, because sometimes it does hurt to tell the truth. Not so much yourself, but I don't like to hurt other people. And when I tell them something they don't want to hear, I'm afraid of disappointing them. But lying was a greater disappointment. And then I had to talk to this person, and I said, I'm sorry, I did disappoint you, and I won't do it again. So I was able to learn something and change my behavior, and I was able to apologize authentically, like I meant it, to the other person and move on. And so in that case, my not meeting the expectations was my responsibility. Now, in the case of, I'm just using me as an example, okay? My mother wanted me to grow up, and I don't know really what she wanted me to do, but when I became a psychic and I became a healer, she was rather disappointed in me because she thought I could do better. Ouch. Well, you know what? When I was sitting in my room in 6th grade, as I told you earlier on the show, and I was writing in my journal, who am I? Who am I? I wrote down that I am a sensitive person and that I see things, and I didn't really know the word psychic yet, but I knew that I believed in what I knew because I was given the message by Spirit. And so that's who I really was, and my mother was disappointed in who I didn't become. And did it hurt me? Oh, my God, yeah. I wanted her to be proud, but I couldn't be something that she wanted me to be when I couldn't. And I tried to explain it to her, and she said she understood it, but she never embraced that expectation. She never embraced that expectation fully, and therefore she didn't fully embrace me. Now, it wasn't the end of the world, and I came to terms with it, but it took a level of emotional and mental maturity as well as a deep spiritual connection with Source and with my soul to realize I'm okay that I am not meeting her expectations. And so let me see if I can explain this right. My mother was disappointed in me, and then it made me feel bad. And she was disappointed in me because I did not meet her expectations. And I think she wanted me to get married and have lots of grandchildren and do all that stuff, and it just didn't work out that way. And so I knew that my mother had certain limitations, and so I had to change my expectations. And so the onus, the responsibility came back to me. I understand that my mother is disappointed because I didn't, kind of grow up to meet her expectations. But I have a set of expectations that my mother would love me fully. And I think she tried her best, but she didn't completely embrace who I was. So a lot of people say, I'm going to lower my expectations. I'm just not going to have any expectations at all. I'm just going to give up all hope. I'm just going to give up and just have no expectations. So it's either lower the expectations or have no expectations. And I understand that people do that as a form of self-protection because then they won't be disappointed and they won't be hurt. But after doing this work for many, many years, I have learned that if you just change your expectations, words are so powerful. Words are so powerful. And lowering your expectation or having no expectations at all is different than changing them. Changing your expectations can help you see another part of the individual, of yourself, of the situation, that perhaps you were not looking at before. And so I had to take a look at my mother's expectations, and I had to change my expectation of her expectations. And so I got to see my mother in a true human form, and she was a disappointed parent. And I understood that. And my mother and I had a very tumultuous relationship, and it never really was hunky-dory. But my mother passed away a year ago last October. And so it wasn't until April. She died last October, and I really made peace with it this April with this whole expectation thing, because a part of me did feel, oh, God, I let her down when she died. without me healing this. But there was only so much of this healing that I could do on the earthly plane, and I had to change my expectation of what I expected from her, and just kind of be okay with that. And in doing that, I actually learned more about myself, that I can be flexible and that I can love someone even though it's not perfect. Nothing's perfect, really, is it? You ever look at your face? Look at your face in the mirror, or maybe don't if you're OCD, because it's not perfect. However, it's perfectly imperfect or imperfectly perfect. And so a lot of times I realize that it doesn't have to be perfect to be perfect. I actually, I always thought about writing a book called Life is Crooked, because in its crookedness, it always balances out. And that's what I was able to do with my mother and her lack of expectations, or she lowered her expectations with me. And so I realized, that's okay. That's okay. And it made me look at myself and my ability to be more flexible. So I learned something about myself, and I was able to be flexible enough to heal through that wound. Now, I do believe that it's coming up on 8:45. We're going to go to a break in a moment. I know I see a lot of messages in Facebook here. I'm going to look through those messages and the feedback during the break, and we're going to come back and answer some of those questions. But we're also going to talk about what happens when you fall short of your own expectations and what that does to you and how to handle that. So again, we will be back shortly. We're talking about great expectations tonight on the Rock Girl Unleashed, Empowering the Wild Within, and what to expect when you're expecting. All right, folks, we'll be right back.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
There is no death, only a change of worlds. Chief Seattle. Deborah Livingston is an award-winning intuitive psychic medium whose international services include mediumship, spiritual assessment, animal communication, and spiritual mentoring. She is a published author and a trained shaman. Deborah provides evidential messages from spirit and departed loved ones. Learn more at deblivemedium.com. That's DEBLIV medium.com.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Hello, everybody. We are back on the Rock Girl Unleashed, Empowering Your Wild Within. Yay! We're in the last segment of our show. I was reading through your messages on Facebook. Thank you so very much. I'm glad that you're enjoying the show and that you do find it helpful. And a lot of you have been asking, okay, they understand what it's like to disappoint others, and one person reads that, you just understand that this person is in energy work, and they understand that it may not be acceptable, and she has chosen not to disclose that, but it is her choice, and she doesn't feel like she's in the closet, which is great. That is the best way to make the choice. And just because you are in the closet about your psychic or your healing gifts doesn't mean that it's not a good place to be, as long as it's your own choice, So I commend you, and that was Clara. All right. Now, Debbie says, I find myself, Debbie, Wendy, Maggie, and Sarah, they've all agreed individually, just surmising their messages, that their biggest kind of disappointments are when they fail their own expectations. So let's take some time and talk about that. All right. Yes, they often feel like that. Sarah says that I don't even set expectations for myself anymore because I don't want to fail them. And she lists examples of diet, exercising, things like that. Let's see. Tina, another one here, says that when she was younger, she had big expectations of being an executive, and then she got married and had children early, and she just gave up all hope. And so, ladies, this is for you. This show is for you. And part of empowering your wild within and unleashing your soul is letting go of those expectations, those heavy expectations, that wet blanket feeling of expectations on yourself. Because you know what? Maybe it just doesn't work for you. Maybe it wasn't meant for you. A lot of us, when we want to do something, now think about it. When we are excited and we want to do something, we have boundless energies. And I've learned throughout the years that when I get really tired and lethargic and I just don't want to do something and I literally can feel low energy and malaise, I ask myself, do I really want to do this? And so the same applies here. A lot of us, fall short of our own expectations, and we've handled the expectations from others. But did we expect to make a certain amount of money this year? Did we expect to become a veterinarian instead of, a banker or a waitress for that matter? And so those expectations, ask yourself, number one, when did you agree? When did you shake hands? When did you enter into a covenant with this expectation? Was it when you were 20 years old? Was it when it was 30? Was it when you were 40 years old? Perhaps that shoe doesn't fit anymore. And, another thing that I told people on the Change radio show I did last month is that when I believe it was 45 years old, I lived in the New York, New Jersey area. I got divorced. I couldn't afford to live there. And I had to move to Asheville. And I was so scared about leaving my friends and everything I knew for 45 years and coming down to the unknown that I robbed myself of the joy. I robbed myself of something new and exciting. I robbed myself of the reset button, of the ability to reinvent myself. And the same thread applies here to the expectations. Are you expecting something of yourself that you shook hands with, that you agreed with when you were 20 years old? And that agreement may have worked then, but we change and we grow. I wear different shoes now, you probably do too, than we did 20, 30 years ago. We wear different clothes, our body changes, and so does our emotional and mental and spiritual level change as well. And so the expectations that we impose upon ourselves back then may not fit now. We get new software for our computers. My goodness, we're always getting new cell phones. Everything is constantly updating. My bank the other day sent me a new card, even though I just got one last year, because they updated their system. You need to update your expectations. I have so many clients, especially men, when they call up for their psychic readings, they're disappointed with themselves because they were supposed to be a CEO of this or a CEO of that, and they're doing something else. And I ask them, when did you shake hands with that? Was that 20 years ago, 30 years ago? You have changed. The world has changed. Just this metaphysical world has changed in the last 5 years. I've watched it change, and I've been in this business since I've been 30. Well, even before that, but professionally, so that's been 20 years. And so are your expectations up to date? And when did you make them? A, when did you make them? B, are they up to date? And C, do you want them anymore? And D, probably the most important ones, are they limiting your personal growth and spiritual transformation? Are they limiting your personal growth and spiritual transformation? You know, I was in a marriage. I had expectations that I was going to be in this marriage for the rest of my life. And as I was growing and he was growing, we went separate ways. And it limited, based on his beliefs and the beliefs of his family and our neighborhood and where we lived and our social situation, the psychic stuff was unacceptable. The healing stuff, the rock stuff was unacceptable. And those expectations were imposed by other people. But my expectation of being married for the rest of my life was something that I had control over. So I had to change that. And when I did, you know, I unleashed my wild within. You know, and I empowered my wild within, and I empowered and I connected to my soul. And I was able to hit the reset button. I was able to move from one place to another, to call myself a psychic, to call myself a healer. I had a lifelong dream ever since I was in my early 20s, and it was to start a metaphysical school called the Rock Girl Sacred Stone School. And it was just a dream. And as my marriage was breaking up, my marriage started to break up in 2007. And so I actually started an online website called the Sacred Stone School. So I had it was an online presence, and I taught classes in person, but it was an online presence. And when my marriage broke up finally in 2009, it took me 2 years to accept the fact that I couldn't afford living there and move down here. But I actually got a location, a physical location for the Rock Girl Sacred Stone School, and opened the Rock Girl Sacred Stone School in May 31st of 2014. And so I had the online presence, but I actually got the school. I have a physical presence filled with thousands and thousands of rocks, and I have hundreds of students that come throughout the year. And because I changed the expectation on my own self, I was able to recreate a new avenue, a new piece of me, a new part of me. I was able to reset the button and reinvent myself. And I can't tell you how happy and blessed I feel. I can't tell you how liberating it is, how I felt unleashed and empowered. And I connected to the wild within, which is my soul. And so what I've learned going forward is to expect the unexpected. I'm not saying lower your expectations about yourself. I am not saying lower your expectations about or have no expectations about yourself or your future. I'm saying expect the unexpected and be excited about it. And that also goes for other people. I mean, a lot of people have been in relationships for years, and they expect one thing, their spouse or their partner expects another thing, and it's kind of fun to sit down and say, let's just expect the unexpected and support each other in different ways of growing. And so that's something fun that you can do to be supportive, whether it's with a partner or a friend or a group of people. I have the Rock Girl Sacred Stone School Planetary Gridding Research Group, and we go to Bimini every year. And when we get off the plane, we're like, okay, expect the unexpected. So we've been going to Bimini in the Bahamas for 3 years. We're going to go again next year, which is 4. And every single time we have basically expected the unexpected, and amazing things have happened. And so if we don't limit ourselves to certain expectations, imagine how big we can grow, how much we can embrace, and how much of the world and of other people and other souls, and even our own souls, especially our own souls, that we can embrace and that we can enjoy and we can grow. And I'll tell you, ever since I started expecting the unexpected, there are parts of my soul that I had no idea existed. And so that is how I'm going to end the show tonight, folks. We started, the topic is Great Expectations. the beginning of the show was to expect what to expect when you're expecting. So what do you expect out of your expectations? And so the show is Great Expectations. The beginning was what to expect when you're expecting. And in closing, let's all agree just for 1 week, all right? Let's all shake hands, right? To expect the unexpected and see where that takes you. Hopefully it will be into a sense of adventure, excitement, and enthusiasm. Yay! All right. Well, it looks like it's 8:59. The show is going to be wrapping up. I want to thank you so much for joining me and for all the people on Facebook and their feedback. It's so great to feel you out there and to see your questions. I hope that I've touched on all of them, and I hope that this information helps you. I will see you the first Tuesday in September, and we'll talk about something fun and juicy. So do write in with your comments and your ideas, your questions, and we'll make that the topic of our next show. Until then, folks, be good to yourself, be good to your stones, be good to your soul, and they'll all be good to you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you for joining us for Shay Parker's Best of the Best. Be sure to tune in next week for more lively discussion topics. Have a great week, and don't forget to check out bestamericanpsychics.com in case you need some professional, ethical, and accurate psychic advice from the nation's best psychics. Until next week, take care of yourselves and one another.